Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining me. This is the DAX Open with myself, Russell Shaw. I'm a senior market specialist at FXCM, and my email address is rshaw@fxcm.com. I want to just highlight the fact that you can send me emails if you feel you need to contact me. So please send them through to rshaw@fxcm.com. And today is Friday, and it's the 12th of November, 2021. I'm just going to bring up a high-risk investment warning. Hey Zanetta, good morning to you. Such a pleasure having you on the webinar as always. And I'm just going to bring up our market commentaries disclaimer. I'm going to keep this on screen. Hey Shadrach, nice to see you. Can you just confirm if you've got those emails? I just want to make sure that you got the, whether in the spam folder, just please let me know. All right, let's just bring up the references, FXCM Market Scope 2.0. And let's go ahead and bring up the chart. As always, we're going to start with the weekly and we will work our way down. But before we do that, let's just make sure that we know what's the media is looking at. Looking at CNBC's morning note, it starts by saying European stocks are set for a muted open today, continuing to search for direction as global investors assess recent high inflation prints and corporate earnings. Historic inflation surges in the US and China have weighed on global markets so far this week, but European markets are still looking to eke out gains going into Friday's trade. A Reuters poll of economists on Thursday indicated that Eurozone inflation expectations are also at risk of continuing to overshoot the ECB's 2% target in 2022. Eurozone inflation topped 4% last month, but the ECB has broken from other major central banks by resisting calls for a tightening of monetary policy. Shares in Asia Pacific mostly rose on Friday following overnight gains for US tech stocks during Thursday's regular trading session. Early pre-market trading points to a modestly positive start on Wall Street today, as the stock market stateside looks to have withstood the country's highest inflation print for more than 30 years. Corporate earnings have also been a key driver for individual share price action throughout the week, and this is likely to continue Friday with AstraZeneca, Richmond, Deutsche Telekom, amongst others. In other corporate news, Daimler announced Thursday that its truck business will be spun off on December 10th as the German automaker looks to cut costs and bump up profit margins. On the data front, Eurozone industrial production figures for September are due out this morning. All right, let's take a look at the chart. Let's clean it up. Okay. So I want to just start off by saying that we need to, and I'm sure we recognize what a trend is, but I just want to reiterate that we need to understand that there are effectively 4 points for a trend, 4 points. So I'm just bringing up Microsoft Paint. And this is sort of your theoretical representation of a trend, and you've got point 1, point 2, point 3, and point 4 actually is the point immediately above point 2. So anywhere above point 2 is point 4, and this all means that there is a higher trough. So point 3 is a trough that's higher than point 1, which is a trough. Point 4 is a higher peak than point 2, which is a peak, right? So a higher trough followed by a higher peak. That's your definition of an uptrend, which I think is what we need to just keep in mind as we analyze the weekly chart for the DAX, because what we have here is 3 points, not 4. We were 3. So let's just put in the points here. We've got point 1, point 2, 0.3. In other words, we don't have a trend on the DAX, but we do have all-time highs, which of course is bullish. But I think given the definition of a trend, okay, given the definition of a trend, some sort of pullback and then support and then a push up, I think actually does a lot of good for the weekly DAX chart. I think then we have the 4 points that we need, and effectively we want to see a series of higher troughs followed by higher peaks. Now, I just want to refer to the US dollar here just to show you the series of higher troughs and higher peaks, and then we're going to come back to the DAX. Okay, yeah, and then Zanetta's saying that she's looking also for a pullback there, but I don't know when it's going to come. But I think any sort of pullback, we should be looking to see if a higher trough is going to chart. And here you can see my representation of the peaks and troughs. And the truth is, we actually got another higher peak this week. So you can see this is a beautiful looking trend on the US dollar on a weekly chart, and it's just exactly sort of what we look for, textbook stuff. So if we go back to the DAX, here's a series of higher troughs followed by higher peaks. Then we moved sideways for a fair amount of time. We've broken out, terrific. Now we want to see the ebbs and flows of a trend. Another thing to keep an eye out for is the stochastic. I think everybody here on the call knows it's my favorite indicator, and I really want to see it above 80 and holding. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to the 80 level. It's going to be no good if we hit 80 and fall out of 80. That's no good, because then the momentum has completely disappeared. But if we hit the 80 and hold, well, that's where the magic happens. Take a look here. Here is we're holding above 80, and we get superb movement in the index. So we want to just keep an eye on that. All right, let's go down to our daily chart. We're going to use zone analysis here. Let's move this out the way. Okay, cool. All right, so we're in zone 1, upper red, upper blue. That's our bullish area. Look where the stochastic is. It's looking it's looking very strong. We're not overbought yet, but we're tending to that side. Okay, so that's what we like using the RSI for, just to measure the extremes. Okay, so which the stochastic can't do. So you can see we're not overbought, but we're tending towards that area. So just keep an eye on that, but it's positioned nicely. And it's a very odd looking candle. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's a gap up here. So we'll look at the hour in a moment. So we close here, and then we open here. So there's this big gap here, and then we've actually started moving downwards. So that's odd. It's just odd price action. Just take a look and see the hourly. We'll just zoom in and see if there's opportunities here. Okay, so I think let's clear this. It's a little busy. All right, let's just clear it out. All right. So for most of this week, we've had very little volatility, and that's a problem because as traders, volatility is effectively our friend, right? So we've had very little volatility. There was a nice sort of kick up yesterday, but truth be told, it's maybe a little bit exaggerated because of this gap here. Okay, so the volatility, let's just go back to the weekly here. You can see this candle, and we've mentioned this the whole week, is a very short candle. It's a very short candle. There's no real emotion in terms of bullish emotion. Very short, stocky candle. We go through to this over here, our hourly. Well, we've got to keep an eye on the central pivot, right? It looks like we're putting back towards that central pivot. Let's just bring in some support. And it's a relatively strong level here. Okay. We've got price reacting over there, price reacting over there, price reacting there, price reacting there, price pushing through and then reacting, 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 reacting. So the central pivot here has certainly been a focus throughout the week. And as such, I think that it makes perfect sense to see if that central pivot holds. Now, there's no guarantee that it holds. It could fall through. And if it falls through, then we'll take a look at that S1 level. But our first level of interest is the central pivot. And what we want to do is we want to just assess if it draws in some support, some bid. And then if we do get a bid there, we want to see the EMAs cross positively, start moving in that northeasterly direction. That's trigger 1. Okay. Trigger 2, we want to see the stochastic turn up. So we need those 2 triggers. And then the third, and in my opinion, the most important development is we need the stochastic to head towards 80 and hold. Okay. And hold, maintain. That's the key. It's no use hitting 80, falling out, hitting 80, falling out, hitting 80, falling out, because then we're not getting the swings that we need. And we go back and you can see sort of the longer term. These aren't really good examples, but yeah, the sort of longer the longer duration in the 80 area, and it leads to some more some better swings. Here's a good example. Spends a considerable time, nice swing. So the idea here is to keep an eye on the central pivot, get the triggers, watch for the stochastic, see if it holds at 80 level, then we've got a good chance. Okay, but if it hits at 80, falls out, that's no good. If we don't get the triggers, that's no good. So the first level to watch is that central pivot. If that fails, we'll watch the S1. All right. If there's any questions, please go ahead and type those in. Any questions, please go ahead and type those in. All right, nothing coming in. So we'll conclude at this point. And if you need to get hold of me, please send me an email, rshaw@fxcm.com. Thank you very much.